Hi folks, I'm Kim Adamski, HIV prevention specialist at the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective. We're located at 1841 Broad Street in the south end of Hartford. We do STD testing, dental, we do support groups, we have PrEP referrals, health education, all kinds of stuff. And you can also follow us all over social media. We have Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and we have all kinds of fun factoids and information and stuff that we post every day. So today we have Michael Reynolds of the Franciscan Center here today to talk about his experience with religion as an LGBTQ individual. So Michael, can you introduce yourself and the Franciscan Center?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kim. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the lovely friends and people that have gathered here and to all that will hear this. I'm so thankful, Kim, that you reached out with the invitation to join tonight. And I'm so thankful for the Health Collective. That's actually been part of my journey in the last several years and making connections there and wonderful work that goes on there. So thank you. So I actually wanted to start, if we could, for a moment to just pause, all of us together and those that will join us after too, and just take a few moments to take some intentional breaths and just to be here in this moment with one another. And if we could breathe in the feeling of having a one and unified church for all of us and all of us in the LGBTQ community and beyond. Just if we can breathe with that for a few moments of what that feels like for us all to be one. So I'll just pause for a moment so that we can do that together. And let us keep that with us for this time that we have here together. And so in sharing about my journey, the beginning really of that journey is, of course, with my birth and growing up. I grew up Catholic, Roman Catholic, in a very loving family, a family where unconditional love was the way of being. And so I'm very grateful for that. That's been with me my whole life. I hear many stories of people who have quite a different experience in their earlier years, but mine was one of a very loving, supportive family, always there for me, and I'm forever grateful for that. I grew up also believing for many years that I either could be Catholic or gay, that the two would be exclusive, mutually exclusive, and not linked together. And I think that was because of the messaging of the larger institutional Catholic Church growing up, both overtly with the messaging and just what I felt from what wasn't being said. And so for many years, I repressed my identity as a gay Catholic, and I chose to live the identity as a Catholic man, but not as a gay person. And so that carried me into all the way through my 20s. It wasn't until I was age 29 and in a master's program of social work that I came to a very pivotal point in my life. And through a professor who's actually part of my church community now, where I attend church at St. Patrick, St. Anthony, and the Franciscan Center, that it was through taking her class that I really was invited to look at my authentic identity, and through an assignment that we were given to look at what might be an impasse within me and what I might need to look at to do effective work as a social worker. And so that's where that journey began. I came out, and as I prefer to say, I came into my authentic identity at that point. That's the language that fits with me in a more real way. So I came into my identity at that point, and that's where my journey in bringing the two together really began, where where I journeyed through meeting such wonderful people and wonderful priests and leaders and others, some of whom are here with us right now. And that was part of my journey to my full embrace of who I am in being both Catholic and gay and living those out both fully. So that's a bit
Awesome.
about my story.
I really like the phrasing of coming into your identity. That's really great. So at the time when you did come into yourself, did you were you at that time a member of the Franciscan Center, or was that still yet to happen?
So that happened shortly after.
Okay.
So first I came into my identity through the school program at UConn, and it was actually my mother who I came out to my parents. They were the first ones other than myself. And so then my mother had been going to my parish now for daily mass, sometimes in the middle of the day. And she said, I'm part of this wonderful, welcoming parish that truly lives out what they say and is very active. And I think this would be a great place for you to come and visit. And so she brought me down to mass one day, and that's when I found my home the first day that I walked in there. Just the spirit of welcome was palpable in when you go through in the church in that place, and that was very profound for me. And I knew that now I have a home in who I am as Catholic and gay.
That's great, because a lot of people don't end up finding a community like that, especially like, when they don't have access to like urban areas that tend to be a little more progressive and stuff. So it's really great you were able to find that. So you're also an LCSW. Is that the program you were in at the time?
Yes, that's correct, at UConn.
Okay. And how would you say that your faith influences your work as a LCSW?
Definitely. One of the other things that I learned in the program is how important it is to be integrated. And so not to separate or partialize our lives as one, this is over here and this is over here, but really to bring my true full identity into my work. I needed to be comfortable and embrace who I am. And that way I could be comfortable with all the people that I met and who they were with all of their different realities as well. So it's definitely a part that I bring with me everywhere into every space in life.
That's great. Now, how did you end up getting involved in the LGBTQ ministry? And can you also tell us a little bit more about the LGBTQ ministry?
Sure. So when I went to the church, St. Patrick, St. Anthony, the first time I went there, as I mentioned, I felt completely welcomed in the spirit of welcome right away. I thought that I would just have a nice place to worship and to be part of a community and would just settle in, and that now I found my home, I can settle in here. And so I felt the spirit kind of working within me, bubbling up to become more involved, not just to attend, but to become more involved. And there was an active LGBTQ ministry for many years in the parish before I came. And so I had that yearning to at least go to a meeting. So that's how it began. I went with a friend to a meeting, and then I thought I would just attend the meetings and participate. But again, there was the rising up that so often happens in the spirit, I believe, that there's something more here now that I'm calling you, that I felt God was calling me to. And that was to be more involved in the leadership. So I began that shortly after, probably less than a year after I found the church. And so that was probably about 14 years ago now that I became more involved in the leadership.
That's great. So what kinds of things do you do as part of the leadership of the ministry?
Yeah, so we've been involved in a wide range of things over the years, including many years ago we hosted 2 welcoming gay Catholics to the church conferences for people throughout the whole region. That was in 2011 and 2012, I believe. And we've offered retreats, evening retreats. We meet once a month for a gathering. Now it's virtual, but used to be in person. And we've also collaborated with some of the other ministries there, the social justice ministry and the music ministry, to have dinners and just fellowship together. We've showed films and had book discussion groups. So spiritual exercises to develop and grow spiritually, but also social, educational events. We've had a recent panel within the last 2 years with LGBTQ people on the panel, sharing their stories and taking questions of what it was like to journey in the faith. So a wide range of different things.
Awesome. That's a lot of great stuff. Sounds like you guys really do a lot. And I mean, it's like you've been saying, the Franciscan Center just seems really LGBTQ affirming. But I mean, you know, a lot of other Catholic churches are not. So how does that affect the Franciscan Center's relationship with the greater Catholic community?
So the way that I experience it, it is part of the Franciscan charism to really be welcoming to those that are marginalized. And so our community is one on the margins. So I think there's a purposeful, really, effort that's part built into that whole charism to reach out and truly to welcome all. And not only to welcome, but to see the value and the giftedness in each person that comes. And that's not strictly with the LGBTQ community, but that's with the whole of humanity. And that's how the parish, that's the foundation that I find the parish is built on. There is that larger reality, I think, that many have experienced in the institutional Roman Catholic Church. And that's a larger discussion that we wouldn't have time for right now to go into that. But I do think it's a difference in the charism and really the spirit that is kind of embedded, and really living out the values of the Catholic Church, which are one, holy and apostolic, which calls us all together. I think sometimes within Catholic spaces, some of that might be lost in some ways. And I think the Franciscans do a good job at really keeping that alive. And so I'm so grateful to be part of a community like this.
Great. Now, just quickly, the Franciscan Center and St. Patrick's St. Anthony's Church are the same but different. What is the divide there? Just
Yes. So the church itself, St. Patrick, St. Anthony, functions as any parish would in the Archdiocese. Mm-hmm. And then the Franciscan Center is a separate entity, but connected. So a lot of the programming will happen through the center. So there is a way that the two are not fully one, but separated. So the Franciscan Center can hold a lot of different kinds of events, not only just strictly for the parish community, but beyond within the local community of Hartford as well. So they operate a bit differently too.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying. I wasn't sure. Okay, so what about you personally as an LGBTQ person involved with the Catholic Church? Do you ever receive pushback from folks?
It's interesting because I don't know if I would use the word pushback, but I receive a lot of questions and wondering sometimes from fellow friends in the gay and lesbian community at times, in the LGBTQ community, people who often wonder, how can you remain Catholic, part of a Catholic church, even if yours is affirming and accepting, when the larger church, institutional church, is not? And so, but I think we all have our own journey, and many people have experienced real trauma, real pain that's very deep, and they need to be in a place that's healthy and a place where they can truly thrive. And many Catholic churches don't provide that. And so people need to go where they can be fed too and grow. And so I understand that when I get questions like that, and I just speak from my own journey, that I personally have not experienced trauma from the church. I have experienced pain and struggle that has come from the messaging of the larger church, but I choose to remain within because I feel I have a home in the church and I found a place where that can be. Um, on the other side, I have sometimes gotten questions from other Catholics who might be wondering why I might put up with the church or stay in the church when the larger church, when it gives that messaging. Um, and to that, I just answer, this is where I feel is my place right now. And that's a continual discernment for all of us. And where that will be in the future, I don't know. But now I feel this is my home.
That's really great. I'm really glad you were able to find a place that you felt comfortable like that. So like you said, not all Catholic churches have that kind of support and services for LGBTQ folks. So how would you recommend that folks in other Catholic parishes, I mean, a lot of folks in Connecticut were raised Catholic, it's quite common, so probably some of our viewers, how would you suggest that they can work in their church to make it more LGBTQ supporting or to support LGBTQ folks in general?
I think the most important thing is the encounter. So encountering and dialoguing and experiencing one another is the most important. And in every parish, in every community, there will be LGBTQ people. Oftentimes they'll be hidden. They may not come out or share that. But I think if one person brings this up, and then there's another, it starts with a few people being able to be able to share, be able to be open, be able to find people that it's safe to share with. That's important too. And I know that ministries have started outside of our church when it's been a few, 2 or 3 people that have really been interested in bringing something forward. And so they bring it forward either to their parish council or to others in their parish. There's such a need for that to happen. But there are simple things that parishes can do, such as having the rainbow symbol or the rainbow cross, which would be a sign of openness and welcome, and also calling us by name, which would be LGBTQ Catholics, instead of some other names that are used at times to refer to us that are not what we refer to ourselves as. So using our language and just offering that intentional welcome by name would be a place to start. So those are just some brief ideas.
All right. I mean, it seems like your church is doing quite a lot of that, but obviously it's always important to get better and better. So what are some things that you're starting to work on or want to see at your church that's kind of part of your mission?
So as I mentioned, our church has been open and affirming, and it's had a ministry for many, many years. Mm-hmm. So we're so grateful for that. And the COVID in itself has changed some of that, although we do have the opportunity to meet virtually as well, which we've been doing with our community and with other ministries that also meet that way. I guess my hope would be that we can continue to offer that welcome in a specific way, to grow in new ways, to reach out to people who may have, through this COVID time, have kind of distanced from the church, to help them come back. Mm-hmm. And then to be a model and an example for welcoming intentionally and using that language that I spoke of to draw people in and see the gifts, mm-hmm. To be able to be a light and to spread that so that it would spread through our archdiocese and beyond.
Mm-hmm. So more outreach, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like you're doing quite a lot of that. Modeling for other groups is like just leading by example. Great way to do that. So as far as interpersonal discussions go, do you have any advice for talking to friends or family members who object to LGBTQ folks for religious reasons?
Right. So this was a very interesting question when I saw that, when you had sent it. And, oh, hi, June. So this was one thing that I feel, first of all, safety is very important in protecting, having healthy boundaries and protecting our dignity, each one of us. And so sometimes with any age, but especially I find the younger generations that are coming out, if families are not accepting and actually can be hurtful with what they say and how they speak or act, it's very important to have that support group, number one. And so if someone is getting ready to speak to someone about who they are and to come out and their spiritual beliefs and to do that, it's important to have that support group surrounding the person to be able to do that. And again, I'll come back to the word encounter, because the encounter can truly have the opportunity to help the heart open and the mind open. But there still may be some folks who are so kind of set on their way of thinking that you just can't get past that at a certain moment. And that's when I think our energy needs to be placed in areas where there is an opportunity for growth or change. And so if people and families or friends are not willing to for that openness, then it's healthy to kind of find the places that are.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying keeping boundaries, not putting yourself in a toxic situation. But I mean, like you said, a lot of folks, when they are exposed to a group that they have certain opinions about, that might change their opinion. Like if you have a child, they come out as gay, and you are at that time like anti-gay or whatever. Since you love your child and know your child, you'd be like, huh, well, maybe they're not all terrible. So I think like what you're saying, just knowing somebody and having that information could make them come around.
True, right. And then also having the group or the supportive environment.
Yes.
So at our parish, for example, if someone in our community, for example, were to come out, we have a supportive spiritual faith community and people that parents, for example, could go to talk to with their questions. So I think that's vitally important, that people are connected and have those spaces, which is why we need more of them as well.
I love that. Yeah. All right. So do you have any other things that you want to cover, or does anyone have any questions? We'd love to take some questions.
You're so kind, Michael. Parts of my mind are screaming, but I'll keep it to myself. I do though. I wonder if I should just ask you, what kind of other names would the Catholic Church use for LGBTQ members of the Catholic community? Because I'm not sure what those are. I'm just curious.
So the one I think that's used the most often is people with homosexual inclination, or even just the term homosexuality in itself. And those we know are outdated. They're not based on the science or what we know now and how people are requesting to be called. So that's one of the terms that I would hope we can move from, and that in a larger sense in our church, our larger Roman Catholic Church can move from that, because we believe, or I believe, in the living God, and the living God is experienced in our lives, and what we know and what we come to know, and science is a part of that, and sociology is a part of that, and all the fields that we have, and the church can also learn from that as well. And so it's time that I think our larger church can learn that as well to move us forward.
Any other folks?
June, you have to unmute.
You, I hate when that happens. What can parishioners do to support you in the LGBTQ community?
Well, to be who you are, number one. Everyone here that I'm seeing is part of that network that I spoke about for me. And so to be who you are and to just be open to sharing about the people you love and care for, to share what the gifts are, not to hold back from that, but to share openly, I think is to witness to the gift that you see. And when we see discrimination or injustice, then to ask ourselves, what is mine to do to respond to this? Because it might be different for each one of us. For one person, it might be to pray about that. And for another, it might be to take another specific action. But I think part of my message too, that I want to leave is that we need to lift this into the light, lift our community into the light and who we are, and come out of the shadows more fully in our Catholic realms as well. And that is, I believe, that will be part of the way forward so that encounter can happen. And the more courage that we have and the allies and friends around us have to lift the stories, lift the people out of the shadows and into the light, I think that's our key to moving forward.
Awesome. All right. Any other thoughts, feelings, comments?
It sounds to me like it's more of a teaching role to be mindful. I think to have a mindfulness about how you react, right? That you are helping to create a place at that table. I think that's a very courageous endeavor.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and I think the mindfulness is a huge part of it, the awareness that a lot of what I've shared, and I think what many here and who may listen may feel, is that these are things that are basic humanity that we're talking about. We're really talking about basic humanity. And just like we want to lift up all humanity, whether it's immigrant lives or Black lives, women's lives, differently abled lives, whoever it is in humanity, this is also part of humanity. And it's been a language that we've largely forgotten. It's been invisible in too many spaces. We've lifted up many lives as we should. And now it's time for us to lift our community up in the same light, to say, we are also here. We're valued. We're dignified. We have gifts to bring. And it's really the mission of us as church to bring that up, to bring that into being and to create the church that we need to see.
Great. All right, so I think it is about wrap up time. So thank you so much for going live with us. This is, I'm really enjoying this series, talking to folks about their religious experiences as LGBTQ folks. Everybody's got different perspectives. For anyone who needs to contact the Health Collective, our number is 860-278-4163. If you have questions for me, or if you want to schedule like an appointment or anything like that. And you can also email me with questions at kim.a@hglhc.org. And Michael, if you have any contact info for the church or for yourself or for the LGBTQ ministry, anything like that?
Yes, I sent some to you in that information.
Yes, I will be providing that in the description of the video when I upload it, and that will be on our YouTube and our Facebook page, so you can all access that after.
Sure, and I can mention the main number to the church if people are interested, which is 860-756-4034.
All right, and that will be in the description.
But in the other information I had sent to you, so you can list that as well. If people are looking for a place of welcome, or know people that are looking for a place of welcome, that would be, they would have that information, and they would know there is a place to be both gay and Catholic, or member of the LGBTQ community and Catholic.
Great. Thank you so much. This was a really great discussion. And thanks to everybody who attended.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Kim. It's a blessing being with you and everyone.
Thank you. You as well. Have a great night, folks.
Thank you, everyone.